Hello and welcome to a tutorial in Lightwave 3D on LScripting or creating plugins. Today we're learning how to grab the selected item in the scene. Whatever item the user has selected, we can grab it and check its parameters. So these are the two things we are learning: how to get selected objects and how to select an object if you already know its name. So to start with, let me put a no object here and another no object. So we have two no objects in here, no1 and no2. So we want to know which of these is selected in the scene by the user. All right, so let's do that. Let me open up my notepad. I'm using Sublime Text for scripting, so you can use any text editor. So let's begin by putting the keyword warnings. Let me enlarge this a bit, and then let's put our generic function, open close, and let's save this. I'll save this as select.ls. Right, so to begin with, I will name, let me create a scene object first. Now the scene object is written like that, capital S, scene, but I don't like typing this all the time, so I'll abbreviate it to small letter scene like that. So now, in order to know what's selected, we use the same scene object with a method called first select. So I'm going to say object, or my object, is equal to scene dot first select, open close bracket, like that. Now please note the capital letter S here, first select. So this is the method that gets whatever item was selected first. Even if there are 10 selected items, it only get the first one. So in order to check what item we have selected, let's tell the user what that item name is. So this is an object with methods just like this one. The scene is an object with a method dot first select. So also on this one we have methods like, for example, dot name, which shows us the name of that object, or dot id, which shows us the id, or the position and scale, which is taken by get position, or get rotation, or get scaling. So once we grab that item, we can do all that. So let's start with the name. Let's say dot name. So we want to show the user using this info function, info my object dot name. So this is how we grab the item, and we're going to make sure that we have the item and display its name. So let me save this and go to Utilities tab, click on LScript, and then select my LScript so I can run it without actually installing it. So this is how we run generic scripts without having to install them. So right away, say it shows me that no1 is what's selected. Let me select no2 and run this again. So no2 is selected. So that's easily how you grab an item. Now if I want to grab a very specific item, instead of writing it like this, let me, by the way, if you go down here to plain text, this is after you save your script. You can convert this to JavaScript, something like that, so that you see some nice colors here. LScript is not recognized by Sublime Text and most text editors, so we can just tell it that this is JavaScript, so we get this nice coloring. Okay, so at this point, this has become a comment, so it will not run. So what I want to do instead is to select my item using a specific name. So I'm going to say my object is equal to mesh, and then let me put the name there, no1, for example. So this is going to grab no1 from the scene and assign it to this. Once we do that, then we can later check the name, the ID of no1, and the position, scale, and rotation. So let's confirm that this has worked. Let me go to LScript and run this again. So select, and you see no1 which means it has worked. Now, if I type a number that doesn't exist in the scene or a name that doesn't exist, what we get is an error. So let me go to the select and we say invalid object reference on line 14. So line 14 is this one right here. So which means this my object dot name does not exist, meaning my object was not successfully assigned its value. So we could check here if this was successful or not before we actually tell the user. So to do that, let's check what happens. Info my object, like so. Let me remove this one. So we want to check what the value is of this item if it has failed to work. So let me go back here, run the LScript again. So it's equal to nil. Nil means nothing. So we can check for that and say if my object is equal to nil. So we know that at that point it has not worked. So let's tell the user that it hasn't worked. That item was not found. Something like that. We'll put an else here. So you could write it like this. Same thing. I like it better like that. Right. So if the object is equal to nil, tell the user that we didn't find it, or else display the item if we found it. We'll display its name. So let's go back and run that. Here we go. So that item was not found. But if we put 2 there, which is actually existing in the scene, we'll get it there. All right, now let me remove this part because I want to grab what the user has selected. So I'll open up this one. Okay. And once it has worked, instead of just displaying its name, let's display its position. So now in order to do that, we'll say position is equal to my object dot get position. Now position requires you to provide the time. The time is the frame number, but in seconds, not in frame numbers. So in order to do that, we just want wherever the cursor is, that's where we want to grab the position at that time. So I'll just say scene dot current time. So now position, this pause will contain the position of whatever item is selected at that particular time. So let me say info pause, show us what position is. So if I go back and run this, it will show me that that is the position. Now this position is a vector, so it's got 3 numbers, 0, 0, 1.3. Okay, so that's how you grab. Now if you want a specific, let's say I just want the x value, I'll say pause.x. If I want the y, of course, .y. If I want the z, like that. Let me test that. So in this case, I'll just get one number, the z, the x, and the y. So there we go. So you can do the same for rotation and for scale. So I could say rotation is equal to get, and then I change this to rotation. And then I can change this to scaling and scale, like that. So this will give me the position, the rotation, and the scale of the selected item, and then I can display any of those or do something to them later in the script. So this is how you select an item that is selected, but how you grab the item that is selected by the user so you can manipulate it. All right, so I hope this was useful in one way or another, and I'll see you in another tutorial.